Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel for another Bitcoin update. So today we're going to be looking at some chart fractals to help us better navigate and identify the Bitcoin bear market lows. I'm going to be sharing a few charts with two very specific dates for potential Bitcoin bottoms, and I'll also let you know which prediction I have my money on. Let's jump right into the video. So without wasting any time, my first prediction for a potential Bitcoin bear market low is going to be at this specific date. This is according to the 2008 SPX fractal, which we have previously looked on this channel before, and also according to the 2008 Dow Jones fractal. The Dow Jones and the SPX are very, very similar. So with this, the SPX fractal is basically the Dow Jones fractal. And like I said, if you want to know how we're getting this, we're putting this on a logarithmic growth curve scale. We're going back to what happened in 2008. We're taking a BART pattern, or we're taking a bar pattern rather, from the top down to the lows. We're extrapolating this over, we're putting this at the top, and this gives us our bear market low prediction for the Dow Jones and the SPX for the markets to bottom on the 30th of May 2023. Meaning it is another 266 days approximately until the next bear market low. Now, why did I give you this bottoming target first before I give you my other prediction? It is for the simple reason that I believe there's more quantifiable, arguable evidence that we should be bottoming sooner than this prediction. So on this channel, if you're new, warm welcome. I do like to provide a range of perspectives, even if I don't per se agree with every prediction. But nonetheless, with this prediction, I do see the direction for the stock market, specifically for the SPX and the Dow Jones, to continue to move to the downside for a very long period of time. And here's why the SPX, meaning the stock market, can continue to go down until the 30th of May, but Bitcoin may bottom long before that. Let's wrap up the video with the bread and butter of this video, and this is going to be the VIX 2008 fractal and the NASDAQ 2008 fractal. Now, right off the back, looking at the NASDAQ 2008 fractal, it's honestly not really what I wished to have display. I would have much preferred if there was something that fit my narrative. Nonetheless, the general direction of the trend for the NASDAQ is very clearly working out to the teeth, while the lows and the highs, the peaks and the troughs of the market over on the NASDAQ have really not perfectly played out from the 2008 fractal. And looking at what happened in 2008 to the NASDAQ and extrapolating this to what's happening right now might not be the best way of navigating every single peak and low, because you have to remember news events are different. We get bearish news at different times, we get bullish news at different times. And while the SPX is highly correlated to the NASDAQ, you might be looking down here and saying, you know, hey, the SPX is highly correlated to the NASDAQ, so why are we even going to look at a NASDAQ fractal instead of an SPX fractal? This is why. Let's go back to what actually happened in 2008. And yes, obviously Bitcoin was not trading back at this time, so what I'm looking for is similarities in the NASDAQ, because as we've discussed in length many times on this channel, Bitcoin is highly correlated to the NASDAQ. Yes, it's highly correlated to the stock market, SPX, SPY. If you're looking at individual stock market indices, the NASDAQ is what Bitcoin's highly correlated to. And this is where it gets interesting. Back in 2008, the bear market low for the stock market was in the was in March of 2009. Now, here's why I'm pointing this out. Look at what happened in the VIX. So when the VIX topped out, this is basically saying, you know, hey, as the VIX starts to come back down, the stock market should be, you know, bottoming. We should be rallying after this, because as we know, the VIX is inversely correlated to the SPY. So when we look at these peaks in the VIX, they correlate to troughs over in the traditional stock market. Now, what I want to highlight from this is the VIX bottomed. It technically topped, but bear in mind this is inversely correlated to the stock market. So the VIX was saying the bottom for the markets should be in soon. It was saying this on October 2008. Let's head over to the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ bottomed a month later, around about mid-November 2008, and here's where it gets interesting. The NASDAQ bottomed, went up on a run, came back down for a double bottom. That was all she wrote, and we continued to the upside. The SPX, on the other hand, quote unquote bottomed on November, went back up for a few months, and then went back down and created new lows in March 2009. And it did this with the Dow Jones that also continued with the direction of this. And you can imagine, because the SPX, how it's calculated is, basically just the top 500 stocks in the SPX, in the S&P 500 rather, and the Dow Jones is basically the top 50. So as you can imagine, these charts are going to be very, very similar, and I expect the Dow Jones and the SPX to play out to the teeth. So while these charts over here are saying the traditional markets could be bottoming round about the 30th of May, and yes, Bitcoin could be following along with that fractal, I would like to say that the VIX 2008 fractal and the NASDAQ 2008 fractal, which once again we simply get by grabbing the data that we've got back in the 2008 financial crisis and placing it with what we've got going on right now, not stretching the data in any means to make it fit the trend in any way, but nonetheless, what we will wrap up this video on is our final prediction for when Bitcoin is likely to bottom. It is likely to bottom very soon after the volatility index for the S&P 500 tops out, just like the NASDAQ previously, once again, we highlighted this, just like the NASDAQ bottomed 1 month after the volatility index for the S&P 500 said we would going to be bottoming. The SPX took a little bit of extra time, and as we know, Bitcoin is highly correlated to the NASDAQ. I think it makes sense to look at the VIX, which is calling for the lows in the crypto markets to be in by the 30th of January. Coming over to the NASDAQ, you can see it's predicting the lows for the crypto markets and the NASDAQ, of course, to be in round about the 12th of December 2022. Now, wrapping up the video, I would like to say, obviously, past performance is no indication of future trades. However, the past may not look exactly 100% similar, but they do rhyme. You can very much clearly see, while the NASDAQ is clearly not moving with these individual waves, the market structure is very similar. The VIX, however, the market structure is 100% similar. The SPX, I would almost argue this is, almost 100% similar. But let's not let the human eye do the calculating for this. Let's head over to this post by Nautilus Cap, who calculated it mathematically, the correlation. And as you can see, there is a 91% correlation to what's happening now in the SPX to what is happening in the SPX of 2008. You can also see they've posted a few different charts with similarities of these fractals. So for example, if you were a bull, you might be looking at the SPX 2015 fractal, the SPX 1962 fractal, or you might even be, bearish and looking at these different fractals like the SPX of 1973. Nonetheless, I mean, leaving emotions to the side, you should probably look at the one with the highest mathematical correlation, and this would be over here, of course, the SPX of 2008 with a 91% correlation. And also, you have to bear in mind as well, this was posted on August the 19th, and this fractal was predicting, as you can see, a massive breakdown. And if we do come over to here, this is when the breakdown started to kick in. So in my opinion, it's definitely higher than a 91% correlation now, especially as we were able to use this exact chart to predict the exact top for the stock market. Like, it's not even funny. If you head over to my Twitter, you would have seen around about this 15th of August, we posted saying this is the exact week the stock market's going to top out. I made a YouTube video about it telling you the stock market is about to crash. And what do you know? We were able to predict it solely based on this fractal. So I think that's it. I rest my case. This is what I believe is going to be happening. Like I said, I like to provide a range of scenarios. Obviously, my main takeaway that I would like you to read from this is that I believe the bottom is going to be anywhere between Q1 and Q2 of next year. Yes, it's possible we could bottom, late December. I just think it's probably best if we just look at the directions of all of these fractals. Based on all of these fractals, based on what we've got going on in the world, based on what we've got going on in the economy, I think it makes sense that we just continue looking for more of these bearish moves to the downside, at least for the next couple of months, until we do get more bullish news finally come back into these markets. But for now, my friends, this is what I think is going to be playing out for Bitcoin. I think the bottom is round about Q1. If I had to make an exact bet on it, I'd say it would be happening round about February or March of 2023. I think the VIX, the volatility index for the S&P 500, could very well bottom out, you know, late January, beginning of February. But you also have to remember, it takes time for the VIX to react to this. It takes time for the NASDAQ to react to this. And as we previously highlighted, the NASDAQ was the most correlated to the VIX out of any stock market indices. And at this moment in time, Bitcoin is the most correlated to the NASDAQ. So it's funny, but nothing has changed. And that's all I've got for you today, my friends. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you found some value in this content. Cowboy out, my friends. And as always, peace.